Look, the very traditional business expertise that built your success, it's under threat right now. In fact, it might be the exact thing making you blind to what comes next. The market is shifting way faster than traditional expertise can follow. Welcome to this explainer on surviving the shift, where we're going to dive into exactly why this is happening and what you need to do about it.
Google, the world's most sophisticated information company, is scrambling right now. For years, their dominance was completely untouchable. But generative AI shifted the market so fast that their massive, entrenched expertise just couldn't follow quickly enough. They aren't casually extending their lead anymore. They are reacting to a completely changed game. And that is the argument in one sentence. When the game changes this fast, your past knowledge can actually make you blind.
Computer scientist Pedro Domingos absolutely hits the nail on the head here. He says, knowledge is a double-edged sword. It allows you to do some things, but it makes you blind to other things. Think about it. When you become a hyper-specialist, you get locked into one very specific way of solving problems. But game-changing innovation? It rarely comes from the entrenched specialist. It almost always comes from an outsider who completely reframes the problem.
So how do we survive this? Well, you have to understand the 3 speeds of innovation. First, you've got efficiency innovation, basically doing the same things just cheaper. Second is sustaining innovation, the normal upgrades you make to stay competitive. And third is disruptive innovation. This is a total game changer, like AI. Efficiency and sustaining innovation will keep you playing, sure, but disruption demands a completely new way of operating. Which brings us to our first major idea. The old plan and implement model is losing directly to test and learn. We know managers have this deep addiction to rigid, long-term planning, but let's be real, plans made just a few months ago look pretty foolish today. You have to stop planning for an imagined tomorrow and start rapidly testing for the reality of today.
Consider Michelangelo. We always hold him up as this flawless genius who could see the perfect figure in stone before he even picked up a chisel. That is a total myth. Michelangelo actually abandoned 3/5 of his sculptures completely unfinished. 3/5, because iteration is not failure, it is method. If you want to survive today's disruptions, you literally must become a relentless iterator.
Herminia Ibarra, a brilliant thinker in organizational behavior, puts it like this: I know who I am when I see what I do. You are what you do in practice. So we've got to stop creating these massive, jargon-filled slide decks designed just to impress the boss next quarter. Get out there and solve actual business problems with quick, simple tests today. Do the thing, see the result, and iterate. Now for our second core idea, the visionary and the focused. If we're going to actually execute a test and learn strategy effectively, we have to ask, what kind of thinkers do we actually need in the room? The physicist Freeman Dyson had this incredible concept. He argued that surviving organizations require 2 very different perspectives: birds and frogs. The bird flies high in the air, surveying broad vistas, unifying diverse problems across the whole landscape. They have the vision. The frog lives down in the mud, intensely focused on the details, solving problems one at a time. They have the focus. And it is incredibly foolish to claim one is inherently better than the other. Because here is the undeniable truth. Strategic vision without operational detail fails, but detail without strategic direction stalls. Organizations today are completely overflowing with frogs, these narrow specialists who are entirely unable to adapt to industry shifts. But listen, a sky full of birds who can't execute is just as useless. You absolutely must have both birds and frogs working together. Let's pivot to our third idea, the skills mismatch. We need to ground these concepts in a stark reality that is currently playing out in the job market, specifically in Kenya. The gap between what universities teach and what employers actually need is widening rapidly. For decades, education focused heavily on memorization. But today, regurgitating facts is no longer valuable. Generative AI gives us free, instantaneous intelligence right on tap. Your memory is simply no longer the asset it used to be. Employers don't need what you know anymore. They need how you think. The new survival skills are entirely different. First, exercise critical thinking to act like an outsider and reframe issues. Second, put on your harvest problems hat to go find the messy reality your customers actually face. And finally, you have to rapidly test, synthesize, and boldly pitch actionable solutions. So take a hard look at your own organization.
Are you still planning in a world that is changing faster than your plans? Does your team lack that vital range of visionary birds and focused frogs needed to see what is actually coming next?
If your organization is planning in a world changing faster than the plans, or if your team lacks the range to see what is coming, that is the conversation to have. Stop planning for a world that no longer exists and start evolving. Visit www.acatalyst.co.ke.